Hello, welcome back to part 3 in our video series of learning the art of taming our dragons. Welcome back. If you haven't yet had a chance to visit parts 1 and 2, I encourage you to go back and take a look at parts 1 and 2 of the video series and come along on the continued journey of all the different ways that we are exploring and learning the art of dragon taming. So in parts 1 and 2, I brought up this idea that learning the art of dragon taming has a lot to do with learning how to ask different kinds of questions, learning how to ask better questions about ourselves, about our own nature and our own presumptions about the nature of who we are, the nature of the world around us. And that in doing so, this not only challenges some of the assumptions that we carry around about our own nature, but it teaches us to look beyond those assumptions and to see things perhaps that we have been unwilling or unable to see about ourselves before. And that this is the art form and the flexibility and the muscles that we need to ultimately learn how to identify and speak to our dragons and eventually learn how to tame and befriend them. Our instinct when we greet a dragon for the very first time is to ask the question, how can I make this dragon go away? And what we're actually doing in the art of dragon taming is we're learning how to ask a very, very different question. And the different question that we're learning how to ask is, instead of how do I make you go away, is what is it that you want from me? What is it that you need me to know or learn or understand? What is it that you have to teach me? So what we discover a lot is that our dragons initially show up, are there to protect us from something. Now that might seem strange because we don't experience our dragons that way. We tend to experience them as adversaries, parts of ourselves that we don't like, we're ashamed of, we're embarrassed by, we're disgusted by. But actually they are there to protect us from something. So, for instance, shame is a very, very common dragon for most of us. Shame is the experience of feeling at your core ugly, insignificant, incapable, can't do anything right, those kinds of things. And I think most of us are familiar somewhere with that experience of ourselves. So, how does shame protect me? Well, it can protect me from getting hurt by keeping me incapable. It can protect me from getting hurt by being criticized or hurt by other people. In a sense, I beat them to the punch. I don't let anybody else hurt me because I've already hurt myself first. So it's a very weird, sort of twisted almost way that shame tries to protect me from getting hurt by hurting myself first. Okay? Obviously, the way that shame is trying to protect me exacts a very high price from me. And in the long run, it's not helping me out very much at all. But that's one of the ways that our dragons are put to work. There's some way that our dragon is trying to protect us from something. We're never going to find out how or why our dragon is trying to protect us from something unless we can get curious about it. Which is why we have to change our question from how do I get rid of you to what is it that you want from me? What is it that you need from me? And we can never then learn how to change the question from how do I get you to stop protecting me because I've changed, I've grown up, I don't need you to protect me the way that I used to. Maybe there was a time earlier on in my life where I needed you to protect me that way, but things are different now. I don't need that protection anymore. I've grown up. Maybe what I need is to stop being protected, and maybe what I need now is to learn how to thrive. I know that's a little bit hard to see right now, and maybe we'll get a little bit more in depth into that process later on in another video. But that's an example of how we learn how to employ curiosity with our dragons. And this also sets the tone for changing the relationship that we have with our dragons. And that's really, really important. Whatever we choose to fight or repress or ignore inside of ourselves is what we will give power to. It is what we will become more attached to. What we choose to treat as an enemy inside of ourselves, we can expect to behave as an enemy. Okay? It is only through changing our relationship to our dragons that we can eventually start to find the healing that we're looking for. So, dragon work is about inner reconciliation work. As Western people, and when I say Western people, I'm talking about primarily European Western inheritance, Western myths that have migrated, and all that comes with that, and all of the dominant culture and cultural myths and cultural assumptions that come with that. One of the things that we have inherited in centuries of those cultural myths is this idea of fragmentation. That our nature, our very human nature, is inner fragmentation. Dragon taming work is teaching us that that's actually not true. Our nature is not fragmentation. Our nature is wholeness. So, fragmentation is the experience of forgetting our wholeness. And that starts very young. And that happens to all of us. It's a way that we have all had to learn how to survive growing up in this world and learning how to adapt and adopt expectations from other people. Learning how to be what other people wanted us to be growing up when we were little, before we had our own egos and our own capability to defend and employ our own identities. It's just what happens. Okay? But as we get older and as we start to develop our own identities, it is our job and it is our task to learn how to come back to ourselves. And that's what we're talking about here. Okay? So the work of dragon taming, the work of inner reconciliation, is the work of remembering our wholeness, where we come from. What's different is we're coming back to our own wholeness with consciousness and awareness. We started in innocence, all of us. We started in innocence. And as we got kicked out of all of the different nests of our own innocence over and over and over again, we got fragmented in many, many different ways. Okay? Dragon work is about coming back to ourselves, but with consciousness, with awareness this time. And that's what's different. And this is a process that continues throughout the duration of our lives. Inner transformation. The process of death and rebirth. Death and rebirth. Learning how to let go. Learning how to be reborn. This is the work of inner reconciliation. This is dragon work. Remembering. Inner healing. Learning how to ask different questions than the questions that we were initially taught to ask when we were little. My friends, we're living in an interesting era. An era of big, big paradigm shifts. And I really do believe we're living in a time where the world is asking us, begging us to do this kind of inner reconciliation work. What we choose to do with our dragons is important. How we choose to greet them and interact with them and invite them back into the inner conversation with all the different parts of ourselves is very, very important. There's so much more to say and to talk about, as there always is, and there will be more to come. And there will be more videos to come, and I'm excited to share more with you, okay? So please come along on the journey. Thank you for those of you who have been joining me on these journeys so far. Please remember that my book is available from Austin McCulley Publishers and from Amazon.com, The Fire That Never Dies, Dragons of the West, if you'd like to purchase a copy. And I will look forward to seeing you all in the next round. Thank you again for joining. Peace and blessings to all of you. Happy dragon taming.